वेरी गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल ऑफ यू। कैसे हैं सब लोग? आई होप ऑल वेल। कौशिकी, we'll start in just 2 minutes. The today topic is again very interesting and very practical. The offenses and penalty. बढ़िया, क्या बात है। So in this we are going to cover section 122 to section 138. ठीक है। So let me start with section 122 first. Section 122, where a taxable person supply the goods or services or both without issue of invoice or issue an incorrect or false invoice with regard to the supply. What it says? It says that supply the goods or services or both without issue of invoice or issue an incorrect or false invoice with regard to any such supply. Fine. In section 122 subsection 1, it is using the word taxable person. We all know that there are the difference between the person versus taxable person versus registered person. Whenever you are reading the provision of GST law, any section, please make the differentiation between these three words on which the penalty can be leviable under this section. I can say section 122 subsection 1 will be leviable to the taxable person. It means person who is liable to take registration either under section 22 or section 24. Can anybody tell me what is the threshold limit for supply of the goods within the state? क्या कोई मुझे बता सकता है कि what is the threshold limit? थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट क्या होगी अगर मैं गुड्स की सप्लाई विद इन स्टेट करता हूं, और अगर सर्विस की सप्लाई विद इन स्टेट करता हूं तो क्या लिमिट है गुड्स और क्या लिमिट है सर्विस की? The answer is for goods it is 40 lakhs and for services it is services कितना है? It is 20 lakhs. My second question to all of you, if I make the interstate taxable supply of the goods, my second question to all of you, interstate taxable supply of the goods and taxable supply of the services, what could be the threshold limit if I am making the interstate taxable supply of goods? Then next question, what could be the threshold limit if I am making the interstate taxable supply of service? अगर मैं इंटरस्टेट टैक्सेबल सप्लाई ऑफ द गुड्स करता हूं तो क्या थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट है, और अगर मैं इंटरस्टेट टैक्सेबल सप्लाई ऑफ सर्विस करता हूं तो क्या थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट है टू टेक रजिस्ट्रेशन? दिस इज माय क्वेश्चन टू ऑल ऑफ यू. Kaushiki, your answer would be same for goods and as well as for services. Your answer would be same for goods as well as for services. If I'm making the interstate taxable supply of the services, then also your answer would be compulsory registration. Fine. The threshold limit Yes, absolutely correct, Mansa. That if I am making the interstate taxable supply of the goods, section 24 clause 1, mandatory registration. But if I am making the taxable supply of the services, the limit would be 20 lakh or 10 lakh as the case may be. There was a notification issued under section 23 subsection 2. There was the notification in 2017 that if you make the interstate taxable supply of the service, the limit would remain 20 or 10 as the case may be. It is not mandatory registration. Please make a note. There were 3 notifications, first in September, second in October, and third in November. After which I can say if I am making the interstate taxable supply of the service, still I can enjoy the threshold limit of 20 or 10 as the case may be. Now let's move to the section 122. It's talk about taxable person who supply the goods or services or both without issue of any invoice or incorrect or false invoice with regard to such supply. Issue any invoice or bill without supply of the goods or services or both in violation of the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder. Can you please tell me, I'm asking one question. Can I move the goods without can I supply the goods without issue the invoice, which is legally permitted as per the GST law? My question to all of you, can I make the supply of the goods without issuance of tax invoice? Can I remove the goods without issuing the tax invoice? Can I remove the goods without issuing the tax invoice? If yes, kindly give me the answer. There could be the situation that if you are supplying the goods, you have to issue the tax invoice. Section 31, which talks about the date of the removal of the goods would be the last date to issue the tax invoice. Date of removal of the goods would be the last date to issue the tax invoice. But if I am supplying the goods on approval, sales on approval, I can issue the tax invoice within 6 months. I can remove the goods on the basis of the delivery challan. And I have to issue the tax invoice once he confirm, or otherwise maximum within a period of 6 months. Agree? Are you agree with me? And there is one more provision in the Rule 55, delivery challan. In the Rule 55, there is one more provision. Rule 55 says that if because of any reason you could not make the tax invoice at the time of removal of the goods, if you could not make the tax invoice at the time of removal of the goods, you have to move the goods on the basis of the delivery challan, and invoice can be issued after the delivery also. One exception in the Rule 55. Fine. So that is the reason this word is being written in violation of the provision of this act. That is the reason it is being written that why in violation of the provision of this act? Because somewhere the GST law permit me to remove the goods without the cover of tax invoice. Next point. See, in the section 122 subsection 1, there are 21 category of different type of the offenses. In section 122 subsection 1, there are 21 different type of the offenses for which the penalty is same. So first we are reading the different type of the offenses. Okay. Then collect any amount as tax but fail to pay the same to the government beyond a period of 3 months from the date on which such payment become due. collect any amount as tax but fail to pay to the government beyond a period of 3 months from the date on which such payment become due, and collect any tax in contravention of the provision of this act but fail to pay to the government beyond a period of 3 months from the date on which such payment become due. Like if I'm a composite dealer, okay, I cannot collect the tax from the recipient. If I am making the exempted supplies, I cannot collect the tax from the recipient. Or my supply having the tax rate of 5%, but I'm charging 12%. Collect any tax in contravention of the provision of this act, but fail to pay to the government beyond a period of 3 months. In that case, it will also be one of the offense in the 122 subsection 1. Then fail to deduct the tax in accordance with the provision of section 51 subsection 1. Can anybody tell me when the section 51 subsection 1 would be applicable? ये section 51 कब applicable होगा? Can you please just give me highlight that when the section 51 would be applicable? Quickly tell me when the section 51 would be applicable. Giving you two situations, kindly select one. Arun is making the supply to the government, or government is making the supply to Arun. In which case, option number 1 and option number 2, in which case the TDS under section 51 would be applicable. The GST TDS की बात कर रहा हूं मैं यहाँ पे. I am talking about the GST TDS. The answer would be that if supply is being made to the government and other which is being specified in the section 51 beyond 2.50 lakhs, if the value of the supply, it is not single transaction or a single contract or a single or within a financial year. No. If your total contract value exceed 2.5 lakh, supply being received by the government, then government will deduct the TDS. If government is failed to deduct the TDS or deduct an amount which is less than amount required to be deducted, what is the percentage to be deducted under section 51? What is the percentage of deduction under section 51? Okay. If that is being deducted for lesser amount, or where he failed to pay to the government thereof the amount deducted as tax, then he would be liable to the penalty. Next, fail to collect the tax in accordance with the provision of the subsection 52 subsection 1. This is the TCS. When the TCS would be applicable? See, if A is making the supply to B and through e-commerce operator, if A is making the supply to B through e-commerce operator, then e-commerce operator who is responsible to collect the money, then he will collect TCS and then balance amount he will pay to the Mr. A. The rate which I asked is the 2%. The rate which I have asked in the TDS is 2% and the TCS is 1%. 2% means 1 CGST, 1 SGST, and 1% means if it is intrastate supply 0.5, 0.5. So if fail to collect means e-commerce operator fail to collect the TCS or collect an amount which is less than the amount required to be collected, or where he failed to pay to the government amount collected, then he would be liable to pay the penalty. Take or utilize ITC without actual receipt of the goods or services or both. Takes or utilize the input tax credit without actual receipt of the goods or services or both, either fully or partially, in contravention of the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder. I hope you all remember that for input tax credit, how many conditions are there for taking the input tax credit? In the section 16 subsection 2, there are some conditions. Can you please tell me how many conditions are there which has to be satisfied for input tax credit? Answer is initially was 4. After that, one more was added, and now one more was added. One more is added. So the total 6 conditions are there. Okay. Takes or utilize the ITC without actual receipt of goods or services or both, in contravention of the provision of this act. It means they are talking about whatever the condition which is being written in 16, section 17, section 18. Fraudulently obtain the refund of tax under this act. Take or distribute the ITC in contravention of the section 20 or the rules made thereunder. What is the section 20? Mansa A, B, C, D, in which there is a 2 more clauses was added. 16 subsection 2 clause double A, and there is a clause BA. A, B, C, D, there are 4 clauses initially, and till now it is only clause D, but in between there are 2 more clauses has been added. That is the reason I'm saying 6 conditions. Section 20, this take or distribute the ITC in contravention of section 20. What is the section 20? ISD distribution. It means if any head office taken the registration under the input service distributor category, they have to transfer the ITC in accordance with the provision. If not, if they have access, transfer the ITC, then it will be penalized under clause 9. Fail or substitute financial record, or produce fake account or document, or furnish any false information or written with an intention to evade the payment of tax under this act. Perfect. Is liable to be registered under this act but fail to obtain the registration. Furnish any false information with regard to the registration, either at the time of applying or subsequently. Obstruct or prevent any officer in discharge of duty under this act. Transport any taxable goods without the cover of the document as may be specified in this behalf. Without the cover of the document in this behalf. If I'm transporting the goods, my question to all of you, which document is required to be carried along with the movement of the goods? If I'm transporting the taxable goods, which document I should carry? The answer is e-way bill, tax invoice, or bill of supply or delivery challan, as the case may be. Suppress is turnover leading to evasion of tax under this act. It means suppressing the turnover which lead to the evasion of tax. Fail to keep, maintain, or retain the books of accounts and other document in accordance with the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder. Fail to furnish the information or document called for by an officer in accordance with the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder, or furnish false information or document during any proceeding under this act. Supply, transport, or stores any goods which he has reason to believe are liable to be confiscated. Any supplies is being made, transporting the goods, storing the goods which he has reason to believe that are liable to be confiscated under this act. Issue any invoice or document by using the registration number of another registered person. It means using the GSTIN number of another party. I'm issuing the tax invoice to you, but I'm using the GST number of another party. Tamper with or destroy any material evidence or document. Disposed of or tamper with any goods that has been detained, seized, or attached under this act. Then he shall be liable to pay the penalty of 10,000 rupees or amount equivalent to the tax evaded or tax not deducted under section 51 or short deducted but not paid to the government, tax not collected under section 51, 52, short collected or collected but not paid to the government, or ITC availed or passed on or distributed irregularly, or the refund claimed fraudulently, whichever is higher. So 10,000 or tax, whichever is higher. Now I will not move to 122 subsection 1A. Now I am coming to the section 122 subsection 1, and now I am discussing again for your understanding point of view one important task, one important things to all of you. Do you know what is the mens rea? Have you heard about the mens rea? Have you heard about the mens rea? Do you know what is the meaning of mens rea? Now, another angle I like to touch in the section 122 subsection 1. What is the mens rea? The mens rea means guilty mind. The mens rea means guilty mind. Normally, the mens rea need the presence in the criminal offense, not in the civil offense. See, presence of mens rea is required in the criminal offense, not in the civil offense normally. But sometime the taxation law have some inclusion of mens rea. How? Let me explain you once again. Let's say I'm talking about any clause, let's say clause 8. It is talking about fraudulently obtain the refund of tax under this act. Fraudulently obtain the refund of the taxes under this act. Now let's divide into situation. Suppose I'm exporting the goods and I know that I'm not entitled to take the refund of capital goods, but somehow I have applied the refund of capital goods and it has been granted to me. I was not aware that if I'm exporting the goods or services under LUT, I am not entitled to take the refund of capital goods. But what happened when I'm filing the refund application? I have attached the invoices and somehow it has not been noticed by the officer also, and refund is being granted. Will it be called as fraudulently refund? I have taken the refund extra, that is okay. But whether my intention was also mollified, that has to be proved. Otherwise, I would not be liable for 122(1). I'm giving you 2-3 examples. ठीक है. The above is the total, I can say the section 122 subsection 1. Let's divide in two parts. That first is 21 offenses and second is the quantification. What is the quantification? This is the quantification. 10,000 or TDS collected, TCS collected, TDS deducted, or refund, etc., whichever is higher. So there are two parts. The mens rea either can be present in the 21 category of the offenses or may be present in the second part, quantification. How? Let's say supply the goods or services without the issue of the invoice. Suppose I'm supplying the goods without invoice. Here, prima facie, it is not appearing that there is a mala fide intention, or even it is covered non-mala fide intention also. It is not being clarified. But if you see the part B, quantification, it says equivalent to the tax evaded. It means in this part, probably it is not clear that the mens rea is required or not. But in the quantification, it used the word evaded. Evasion means some guilty mind is there. Intentionally fraud is there. So I can say that either in the category of the offenses or in the quantification, mens rea can be present at anywhere. Let's take one more example. This one, fail to collect the tax in accordance with the provision of section 52 subsection 1. What is that? Suppose I am government. I was liable to collect, but I failed to collect. I was liable to collect, but failed to collect. So whether this fault is require the mens rea or a simply fault, simply non-compliances. So prima facie, by looking into this language of the clause 6, it simply say I was liable to collect, but I failed to collect. What is the quantification? The quantification says that tax not deducted under section 51. It simply says that tax not deducted under section 51. It means neither in the category of the offense nor in the quantification or 52. I was talking about 52, or tax not collected under section 51, 52, anybody, TCS or TDS. So it means neither in the category nor in the quantification. Neither in the category nor in the quantification. Does not involve any mala fide intention. It means if there is simply mistake, if simply non-compliance, it will attract the penalty of 122(1), and which would be liable to 10,000 or tax not collected or tax not deducted, whichever is higher. Section 122 cover both tax avoidance and tax evasion. Yes, it cover both. That is the part I'm like to explain all of you. Now, by this word refund claimed fraudulently, it is very much clear that here they need the mala fide intention. If there is only simple mistake, it will not attract the penalty of section 122. Suppress the turnover leading to evasion of tax. Again, suppose I was required to report the turnover of rupees 10 lakh, but somehow mistakenly I have reported only 1 lakh in the GST returns. It is clerical mistake. Will it attract the penalty of 122(1)? The answer would be no, because it is not the evasion. I do not have the intention to evade the taxes, but somehow it is clerically mistake. It is clerical mistake. In that case, I like to highlight only one point to all of you. 122 subsection 1 is having the 21 category of the offenses. So all 21 does not require the tax mala-fide intention, or all 21 require the mala-fide intention. Both are not correct. In some offenses, even though it is plain non-compliance, it will lead to the penalty under section 122 subsection 1. I hope it is clear. एक बार confirm करें. Please give me the confirmation that concept is clear to all of you. So that I can move to the section 122 subsection 1. Fine. Now I am moving to the section 122 subsection 1. What is that? It is inserted at a later stage. So that depend upon the nature, Mansa, that depend upon the nature. For example, I'm talking about the refund. Refund, if it is only non-intentional mistake, it will not attract the penalty of 122 subsection 1. Similarly, but if there is only non-compliance of section 51 and 52, it will attract the penalty. For every category, the difference would be there, depending upon the language. Whether the word like evasion, fraudulently, it is present or not. Okay, Mansa? Any person who retain the benefit of the transaction covered under clause 1, clause 2, clause 7, and clause 9. What was that? Clause 1 means supplying the goods without the cover of invoice. Clause 2, only issuing the invoice or bill, but no supply of the goods. What was the clause 7? Take or utilize the ITC without actual receipt of the goods. And clause 9 is take or distribute the ITC. So ITC or invoice, if any person who retain the benefit of the transaction covered under clause above and at whose instances this transaction is conducted. Now, my dear friend, there is one problem. What is the problem and is the problem? Why, sir? Let me explain you. What is the current provision? Current provision say that Mr. A, who retain the benefit of the transaction and at whose instances such transaction is conducted, shall be liable to the penalty of an amount equivalent to the tax evaded or ITC availed of or passed on. First question to all of you. This section 122 subsection 1A, we have discussed in the last class somewhere else. We have discussed at some place this section 122 1A. Can you please tell me where this provision was discussed? हमने इस प्रोविजन के बारे में लास्ट क्लास में बात की थी. क्या आप मुझे बता सकते हैं कि कहां पे हमने ये बात की थी 122 1A की? नहीं, mastermind is the default, that is okay, but we have discussed somewhere that 122 1A is being inserted somewhere else. Where it was inserted? That is my point. Fine, no problem. The point is in the section 83, attachment of the property including bank account. Attachment of the property including provisional attachment. Correct. In the section 83, this provision 122(1)(a) was inserted, meaning thereby the property, including bank of the mastermind, can also be attached to recover the taxes. So Mr. A, I have given the example, Mr. A has multiple labor. Mr. A has taken the registration in the name of the labor, and he is involved in the fake invoicing, distributing the ITC, etc. And the fraud was when come into the notice of the GST department, they approach that registered person, but somehow they are the labor, so cannot collect any amount. The problem is they know the mastermind, that Mr. A was the mastermind, but he is neither registered person nor taxable person. What to do? There is no provision in the GST law which catch Mr. A. Now that to recover the amount from Mr. A, who is the mastermind and retaining the benefit, the 122 subsection 1A was inserted, but again it has one problem. What is the problem? The problem is this word and. Why? It means what happened in current trade, some news, as per the some news, I'm telling this particular point to all of you to clarify your doubt. Now what the person is doing, Mr. A is the giving the instruction or for carrying out every transaction at whose instances this transaction is conducted, but he is taking the benefit in the bank account, or let's say they have obtained the refund, they have obtained the fraudulently refund, but in the bank account of Mr. B. It means the person who is at whose instances the transaction is conducted and the person who is getting the benefit, they are the two different persons. Now the section 122 subsection 1A is being connected with the word and. The problem is the person should be same, then they can recover. Now if they know that Mr. A has the mastermind, is the mastermind of the offense, but they cannot collect the money from Mr. B's account because Mr. B is not the mastermind. Are you getting my point? So it appears that this word and should be replaced with or. It appears that this word and should be replaced with or. Is it clear? एक बार confirm करें. Now we are moving to the section 122 subsection 2. It will remain and if they are two different person, for example, person who retaining the benefit is the different and person who managing the entire transaction is different, then also they can catch Mr. A as well as Mr. B, the department, and levy the penalty. That is the my point which I like to convey to all of you. Now section 122 subsection 2. Any registered person who supplies any goods or service or both on which tax has not been paid or short paid or erroneously refunded, or where the ITC has been wrongly availed or utilized. Any registered person who supplies any goods or services or both. Now please note, subsection 1 was talking about taxable person. Subsection 1A talking about any person. Subsection 2 talking about registered person. Always keep into mind the difference of these words. Subsection 2 is talking about any registered person who supplies any goods or services or both on which any tax has not been paid or short paid or erroneously refunded, or where the ITC has been wrongly availed or utilized. For any reason, other than the reason of the fraud, willful misstatement, suppression of the fact to evade the taxes, then he shall be liable to pay the penalty of 10,000 or 10% of the tax due, whichever is higher. ठीक है? And section 122 subsection 2 clause B says that for reason of the fraud, willful misstatement, suppression of the fact to evade the tax shall be liable to the penalty equal to 10,000 rupees or tax due from that person, such person, whichever is higher. Any doubt from section 122 subsection 2? Do you think that this provision are also covered somewhere else? For reason of other than fraud and reason of the fraud, any tax evaded, tax not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, ITC wrongly availed or utilized. Do you think that it is somewhere else covered? It is covered somewhere else. Can you please tell me that is it covered somewhere else? This is my question. Same penalty where? Same penalty where? You can say that, sir, this we have already discussed in 73, 74. Then what is the requirement to repeat these penalty in the 122 subsection 2? Am I right? The 73, 74. Which one? You are talking, Mansa, you are talking about which point? 122 2 or some else or 1A? Mansa, you are talking about which provisions? 1A or 2? एक बार कंफर्म करना बेटा. एक मिनट दीजिएगा मैं. हाँ, we have discussed already 73, 74. The point is, if we have discussed in 73, 74, and the same is covered in the 122 subsection 2, then officer will impose which penalty? I do agree that the chapter is different, demand and recovery, and this penalty this is offense and penalty. Chapter is different. But if you read the language, it is same, exactly same. And the problem is that the quantification is different. Quantification is different. How it is different? Try to recall in the section 73, if it is a non-fraud case, and in the 74, if it is a fraud case. यही था ना? This was the penalty. Please tell me in the 73 and 74 whether there is any fixed amount of the penalty or there was a slab rate penalty. The penalty was not the fixed amount. It was some slab. What was the slab? If before SCN, no penalty, 74, 15% penalty. After so cause notice, but before order, no penalty, 25% penalty. After order, but within 30 days, 10% penalty or 10,000, whichever is higher. Here, the 50% penalty. And after 30 days, same but 100% penalty. It means 73, 74 are favorable to the taxpayer. Whereas if you discuss or if you see the section 122 subsection 2, it is talking about in the non-fraud case, 10% of the tax or 10,000, whichever is higher. And in the fraud cases, 100% of tax. In the fraud cases, what is the penalty? 10,000 or tax due, 100% of the tax, whichever is higher. It means we can say section 122 is not favorable to the taxpayer, but whereas 73, 74 is favorable to the taxpayer. It means if in any law, if there are the two different provisions, then which one is favorable to the taxpayer has to be opted one. And second thing, you remember we have discussed in 75 subsection 13. What we have discussed in 75 subsection 13? किसी को याद है? मान साहब का पॉइंट डिस्कस कर रहा हूं, 1-2 मिनट दीजिएगा, मैं कंप्लीट कर लूं ये वाला डिस्कशन, then we'll come to your point. 75 subsection 13 talking about that for the if penalty under 73 or 74 has been levied, then no penalty can be levied in any other provision for the same offense. Double jeopardy. बहुत बढ़िया बेटा, क्या बात है कौशिक. Double jeopardy. It means officer cannot levy the penalty under both the section. He can levy the penalty under one section, and also because it is more favorable, so prima facie I can say he has to levy the penalty in 73, 74 instead of 122 subsection 2. Instead of 122 subsection 2. I hope it is clear. Now the Mansa is saying that 122(2) clause B नहीं कुछ और कह रहे हैं आप. Take or utilize the ITC as ITC is wrongly availed or utilized. This you were talking about, ठीक है. एक बार कंफर्म करना बेटा, you are talking about this point, right? Wrong can never be. You mean to say that fraudulently availed. You are saying that because of this word, it means it is a fraudulently. No, not necessary. The wrongly availed or utilized means when I am filing the GST return, that is GSTR 3B, I have to add my ITC eligibility. I have to enter manually. So instead of 10,000, I have written 10 extra. It become 1 lakh. It means I have taken the ITC of 1 lakh. Is it fraudulent ITC? Answer would not be necessary. Answer would not be necessary, yes. Because wrong thing can also be happen by mistake. Clerical mistake is possible, sir. And we manually enter. As of now, we have to manually enter. Now these are auto-populated from 2A to B, but yes, we can do the manual addition or deletion. In that case, this word will not always fraudulently. However, they have made the clause A and the clause B. They have made the clause A and the clause B for the reason other than fraud and the for reason of the fraud. So it means the mistake, above mistake, the 5 category of the mistake, possible, intentional mistake or non-intentional mistake. That is the reason they have made 2 separate clauses. Is it okay? (73-74) applied only in case there is a supply. 122 is covering cases of the fake invoicing where there is no supply. But in 122 also it is written registered person supplying goods or services. You are talking about 122.2. Am I right? You are talking about 122.2. एक बार confirm करना. You are talking about 122.2. It is written that registered person making the supply the goods or services or both. Correct. So, nay, any registered person who supply the goods or service or both on which tax has not been paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, ITC has wrongly availed or utilized. Same thing it is being written in 73-74. I think let's go to the 73-74 also. Give me 1 minute.
Recording in progress.
So, correct. There is a possibility that 122.2 maybe in future they can specify the situation in direct penalty would be there. But as of now, I can say 73-74 versus 122.2, it would be chosen 73-74. In most of the cases, still now, whatever the notice I have seen practically, it is being levied either under 73 or 74. Next, one more point. Let's move to the 122 subsection 3. Any person who add or abate any offenses. Add or abate means helping that offenses, which is talking about in subsection 1. Acquire the possession or in any way concern himself in transporting, removing, depositing, keeping, concealing, supplying or purchasing, or in any other manner deal with any goods which he know or has reason to believe are liable to be confiscated under this act or the rules made thereunder. He is involved in the transporting or storing that goods, receiving in way concerned with the supply or in any other manner deal with the supply of the service which you know or reason to believe in contravention of the provision, fail to appear before the officer of central tax when issued with a summons for appearance to give evidence or produce a document in an inquiry. So in case of the summons, if person not appearing, summons is being issued under section 70. If any person is not being appearing, then the penalty of 122 subsection 3 can be levied on. Fail to issue an invoice in accordance with the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder. Sorry. Fail to appear before the officer of the central tax when issued with a summons for appearance to give evidence or produce a document in an inquiry and fail to issue invoice in accordance with the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder or fail to account for an invoice in his books of accounts shall be liable to the penalty which may extend to 25,000. Okay. So, any point? Add or abet means someone is supporting. For example, if any point, see, he's issuing invoice or bill without supply the goods, I'm supporting in any manner. Okay. Whether I'm making the invoice, I'm an accountant, I'm supporting that also. Okay. Any type of the support would be covered in any of the above offense. It will be liable to the penalty under 122 subsection 3. The next point, in penalty, we are talking about all section of the CGST Act. It means, suppose I'm talking about, let's say, penalty of 25,000. It means we are talking about CGST 25,000. Equivalent amount of SGST would also be there. It means the total penalty would be 50,000. Total penalty would be 50,000. So I would say, Ashok ji, kindly start the break for 5 minutes only. एक और 5 मिनट का ब्रेक स्टार्ट कर दीजिए. I'll join back in the 5 minute. About that in the penalty provisions or in any provision like late fees, section 47. So whatever the amount we were talking about, that is under CGST Act. Similar amount of SGST would be levied. It means it will be doubled. If it is a 25,000, then it will be 50,000 actually. Now section 123, failure to furnish information written. Failure to furnish information written. So if a person who is required to furnish under section 150, then fail to do within the period specified in the notice issued under subsection 3 thereof, the proper officer may direct that person shall be liable to the pay penalty 100 rupees per day of the period during which the failure continue, provided that penalty imposed under this section shall not exceed 5,000. It means 5,000 CGST and 5,000 SGST. So now who are covered in section 150? The person who is covered in the section 150, let me talk about that. Okay, it is not. I just can give you the brief. See, information written. It is being covered like ROC, banking company, financial institution, electricity, post office, ROC, MCA, like insurance company, GSTN, Goods and Service Tax Network, Reserve Bank of India. So, where any person who is required to furnish the information written has not furnished the same within the time limit specified, in that case, the commissioner or an officer authorized by him in this behalf may serve upon the defaulting person the notice requiring him to furnish the return within a period of not exceeding 90 days. If the said person still failed to furnish the return within the period specified in the notice, then the penalty may direct that person shall be liable to the penalty of 100 rupees per day till such failure continue, but subject to the maximum of 5,000. Subject to the maximum of 5,000, it means 200 rupees per day and subject to the maximum of 10,000. ठीक है. Now find to failure the statistics. Find to failure to furnish statistics. ठीक है. If the person required to furnish any information or written under section 151, then fail to furnish such information or written as may be required under that section without any reasonable cause, or willfully furnish or cause to furnish any information written which he know to be false, he shall be punishable with a fine which may extend to 10,000 rupees, and in case of the continuing offense, to a further fine which may extend to 100 rupees of each day, and the first day during which such offense was continued, subject to the maximum of 25,000. What is the meaning? It means if the person who has called for any information, section 151, giving the power to the commissioner or any person authorized by him, he can call the information from any person. Okay. They are calling the information and that person is not submitting the information, then the penalty can be levied under section 124. What is the penalty? That the penalty would be 10,000 rupees, which may extend to 10,000 rupees. If the offense is continuing in the nature, then 100 rupees per day after the first day and subject to the maximum of 25,000. It means again the same point, 100 CGST, 100 SGST, 200 rupees per day, subject to the maximum of 50,000. General penalty. Yes, it is it says that any person who contravene any provision of this act or the rules made thereunder, for which no separate penalty is being provided, and then he shall be liable to the penalty which may extend to 25,000. See, section 125, it means if there is no penalty, then the penalty would be covered under section 125 for shall be liable to the penalty again for rupees 50,000. Now, we have talked about section 122 to section 125. Now, what is the general discipline relating to the penalty should be taken care or should be considered? Now, section 126, before starting this section, we are directly jumping to the clause 6. Section 122 subsection 6 says that the provision of this section, it means 126, will apply only when the penalty is not fixed sum or not fixed percentage. It means the provision of 126 will not apply in such cases where the penalty is either the fixed sum or expressed as a fixed percentage, like 122 subsection 1, 10,000 or 10%, whichever is higher. It is the fixed sum or fixed percentage. Then the general discipline given in the 126 will not apply. So where it will apply? The provision of 126, that is general discipline, would be applied where the penalty ka amount is not fixed sum or fixed percentage, like section 125. It is saying that penalty may extend to rupees 25,000. It means it is the upper limit. It is the upper limit. It is not the fixed sum or fixed percentage. Go to the section 125. Any person who contravene the provision of this act then shall be liable to the penalty which may extend to 25,000. It means here when the officer is imposing the penalty under section 125, which is not the fixed sum or fixed percentage, in that case, the general discipline to be taken care or considered prior to imposing the penalty. Now, what is the general discipline? The general discipline, the levy of the penalty is subject to the certain disciplinary. No penalty shall be imposed for any offense under this act if it is a minor breach or procedural non-compliances or any omission or the mistake in documentation which is easily rectifiable. Repeating once again, if the breach is a minor, what is the minor breach? What is the minor breach? We'll discuss. Second, if it is a procedural requirement which is not being complied with. Then third, any omission or mistake in the document which is easily rectifiable. And what is the meaning of easily rectifiable? An error is easily rectifiable if the error is apparent on the face of the record and made without fraudulent intent or gross negligence. The minor breach means where the penalty, where the amount of the tax involved is less than 5,000. कोई issue नहीं सेवा, no issue problem. Thank you for joining. We are talking about section 126. It says that if there is a minor breach, means tax component is less than 5,000, procedural lapse or any omission or mistake which is easily rectifiable on the face of the record. Suppose there is a requirement of tax, there is a signature ka requirement, but signature is not there, easily identifiable on the face of the invoice. And also the tax, there is no loss of the tax. It will be considered as minor breach and no penalty should be imposed. Okay. I need to report in the GSTR 3B. The ITC of import of the goods has to be specified in one column 4A1. But wrongly, I have entered in the 4A5. It is only the procedural compliance, which I have not done. They cannot levy the penalty of section 125 like. Then the penalty imposed under this act, however, it will always depend upon the fact and circumstances of each case. It cannot be fixed always. No penalty without giving the opportunity of the being heard. See, opportunity of being heard should always be given. The officer shall, while imposing the penalty in an order for any breach of the law, regulation, or procedural requirement, specify the nature of the breach and the applicable law. So we are talking about that the order should always be speaking order. A speaking order means they should specify the nature of the breach or applicable law or regulation or the procedure under which the amount of the penalty has been specified. I'm not talking about this only. Let's say 122(1). If officer impose the penalty, that they are saying that yes, penalty has been imposed under 122 subsection 1, you need to pay this much of the amount. But 122(1) covered 21 category of the offense. I have been penalized by which clause, that has to be specified. If not, then that order will be called as non-speaking order and penalty cannot be levied. Penalty cannot be levied. The order should be speaking order. It should be specified because of which non-compliances, because of which offense I am penalized. 122 subsection 5. Yes, when the person voluntarily disclosed to an officer under this act the circumstances of the breach of the tax law, regulation, or procedural requirement prior to discovery of the breach by the officer, the proper officer may consider this fact as a mitigating factor. What is the meaning of mitigating factor? The mitigating factor means the person who has committed the offense himself has informed the department. Mitigating factor means justifiable reason to impose the lesser amount of the penalty. Justifiable reason to impose the lesser amount of the penalty. So suppose he has to furnish one information or return, but he has not furnished, and after that, after 10 days, he has furnished the same. When he himself disclose the mistake or anything, voluntarily disclose, then it will always be considered as mitigating factor. Like one example, hypothetical example, assume that GSTR 9C is being applicable on an entity. GSTR 9C, that is the reconciliation statement and self-certification. Is there any specific penalty for the GSTR 9C? Answer would be no. There is no specific penalty for the GSTR 9C. Then suppose one entity has not furnished the 9C, officer can impose the penalty under section 125, non-compliance of any provision of the GST. But let's say Mr. A, who is required to furnish the 9C by 31st December, let's say is furnished on 31st January. He has not furnished within time, but at least he has furnished, and because he furnished, it has been communicated to me. Suppose I am a GST officer. So when the person who is committing the mistake or doing the non-compliance himself doing the compliance or himself informing to me, like informing to me, one more example. Let's say Mr. A has wrongly taken the ITC. He has to take the ITC of 10,000, but he has wrongly taken the ITC of 1 lakh. What he did, he has furnished the DRC 03 for 90,000. DRC 03, he has furnished the DRC 03 for 90,000 and informed the same to me because DRC 03 is in communication to the authority. So when he furnished himself by voluntarily, then I, being a GST officer, consider this fact as a mitigating factor. It means justifiable reason to levy the lesser amount of the penalty or no penalty. Correct? So absolutely correct, Mansa. Absolutely. So cooperative SSC, who is providing the cooperation or informing or clear about the intention that there is no malified intention. So it should be considered as a mitigating factor. I hope 126 is clear to all. Let's move to the 127. Now, section 127, power to impose the penalty in certain cases. The section empower the proper officer to impose the penalty, even if the penalty is not covered any of the following proceeding. So they are saying 127 is talking about the penalty for section 62. Let's read the language of the act and then we'll come back to this study material. When the proper officer is of the view that the person is liable to the penalty and the same is not covered under any of the proceeding, section 62, 63, 64, that is of assessment, 73 or 74, and 129, 130. He may issue an order levying such penalty after giving the opportunity of being heard to that person. What is the section 62? Best judgment assessment, non-filer of returns. Section 63, unregistered person. Section 64, fast track assessment. 73 and 74, we know that determination of tax, not paid, short paid, erroneously refunded, ITC wrongly availed or utilized for reason other than fraud, and 74 is for reason of the fraud or willful misstatement. 129 and 130, which is going to be covered in this class only, detention, seizure and release of the goods and conveyance in transit. And section 130 is talking about confiscation of the goods or conveyance and levy of the penalty under section 130. If the proper officer is of the view that the person is liable to the penalty, then he may issue an order levying the penalty after giving a reasonable opportunity. So he has the power under section 127. Now, the power to waive the penalty or fee or both under section 128. So multiple times we have observed that there is a waiver of the late fees, there is a waiver of the penalty, multiple notification has been issued, like for the GSTR 3B there would be no late fees, multiple time it has been issued. So all such notification will be issued by using the power of section 128. The government by notification waive in part or full any penalty referred to in section 122, 123 or 125 or any late fees referred to in section 47 for such class of the taxpayer and such mitigating circumstances as may be specified therein on the recommendation of the GST Council. So they can waive the penalty or even they can waive the late fees by using the power of section 128. I will show you the notification, one notification, that how the notification would be issued by using this power. Okay, after the break we will discuss. I'll show you the notification. I'll write that I will show you one notification. Okay. Now we are moving to the important section, detention, seizure and release of the goods in transit. So again, we will read from the bare act, means actual language we are going to read. Section 129. Detention, seizure and release of the goods and conveyance in transit, because it was amended with effect from 1/1/2022. Some amendment was there, so it is amended provision. Notwithstanding anything contained in this act, it means it is starting with the non-obstant clause, where any person transport any goods or store any goods while they are in transit in contravention of the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder. All such goods and conveyance used as a mean of the transport for carrying said goods and document relating to such goods and conveyance shall be liable for detention or seizure, and after detention or seizure shall be released. It means if the document is not being carried, document like we have discussed already, that EV bill, document, tax invoice, bill of supply, delivery challan, as the case may be. If these goods are not supported by the document, then goods and conveyance shall be liable to be detained and seized. After such detention or seizure, it will be released only after making the payment of the penalty. How much is the penalty? On payment equal to 200% of the tax payable. My God. Anybody know what was the penalty prior to this amendment? Anybody knows what was the penalty amount prior to this amendment? This is an amended provision. What was the penalty prior to that amendment? There is a huge difference. Any idea? No problem. 100% of the tax and 100% of the penalty. If you refer the section 125, sorry, 129 prior to this amendment, you will find that the penalty amount was 100% of the tax and 100% of the penalty. What the trade was doing, it is a common practice that they are depositing the same through challan by logging to the portal, but the tax amount they are utilizing again. Can we utilize the payment of taxes which we have paid under section 129? I'm talking about prior to this amendment. It is a very interesting question. The taxes which I am paying, whether it will be allowed as ITC, taxes which is being paid under section 129, whether it is allowed as ITC or not. Give me the answer along with reason. I'll appreciate it. One important thing which I like to discuss with all of you, that can I take the ITC of the taxes paid under section 129? Reason kya hai? Kaushiki, what was the reason? Why no? Can I take my question is, can I take the ITC? Can I take the ITC of the taxes paid under section 129? Any other reason? Can you like to link with section 17 subsection 5 block credit? Could you like to link? Can anybody link with this provision? The question which I'm asking, the provision of section 17 subsection 5, and to be very specific, clause I. It is not exempted goods. I'm not talking about exempted goods. Mansa, I'm not talking about exempted goods. Let's say it is a taxable goods. Then only the tax would come into the picture, na? क्या कोई 17 सबसेक्शन 5 के साथ लिंक करना चाहेगा क्लॉज आई? Try to search and identify which clause I'm referring. What is the section 17 subsection 5 clause I? एक बार आप 17.5 I का रेफरेंस देखिए ना. The 17.5 is for the block credit. Am I right? 17.5 is the block credit. Read the clause I. Clause I says any taxes paid under section 74, under section 129, under section 130 is not allowable as a credit. Meaning thereby, it is blocked in the 17.5 I. But actual practice, the people were using this amount as a offset in the future tax liability. So what they have did, they have amended the section 129. They have removed the reference of 100% of tax. Now they are saying we will collect 200% penalty. Penalty 200% of what? Tax amount, na? Jitna tax hai uska double, but everything would be the penalty. We will not say like 100% of the tax and 100% of the penalty. No, we will collect the only penalty, but the penalty amount would be 200%. The penalty amount would be 200%. Is it clear? So now they are saying there will only be penalty, there will be no taxes. And if the goods are exempted, if the goods are exempted, then the penalty amount would be 2% of the value of the goods or 25,000, whichever is lower. Please note, in case of the exempted, they are talking about lower. I'm asking one question to all of you. I'm repeating the same question again and again. This provision was amended with effect from 1/1/2022. What is the amendment? That earlier they were talking about 100% of the tax and 100% of the penalty. They are collecting 200%, but in the name of 100% of tax and 100% of penalty. Can we take the ITC? Can we take the benefit of that tax? Answer was no, because of 17(5)(I). Now, from 1/1/2022, when they have removed the 100% of the tax, now they are saying 200% would be the penalty. Entire 200% would be the penalty. Don't you think that now there is no tax amount being paid under section 129? Don't you think that section 17 subsection 5 clause I should also omit the reference of 129? मैं क्या कहना चाहता हूं कि जब ये चेंज हुआ प्रोविजन 129, जिसमें पहले 100% ऑफ द टैक्स और 100% ऑफ द पेनल्टी लगाई जाती थी, नाउ दे आर टेकिंग ओनली 200% पेनल्टी, विच इज ओनली पेनल्टी, बिकॉज नाउ देर इज नो टैक्स. सो द रेफरेंस in 17(5) clause I, the reference of any taxes paid under section 129 does not have any relevance. So don't you think it should be removed? आपको नहीं लगता कि वहां से रिमूव होना चाहिए सेम टाइम पे? जब यहां पे अमेंडमेंट हुआ 1/1/2022 को, तो सेम वहां पे भी रेफरेंस ओमिट होना चाहिए ना, इफेक्टिव फ्रॉम 1/1/2022. So I like to try to go minutely so that you will have the more clarity. That is the only reason. Okay, answer would be yes, it will omitted in the time to come because the law is new. So might be the cross reference they are looking into, but not at every time at the same time. There are some gap also we have observed in the past, but yes, it should be omitted, section 129 and 130. Now, on payment of penalty equal to 50% of value of goods or 200% of the tax, whichever is higher, and in case of the exempted goods, on payment of an amount equal to 5% of the value or 25,000, whichever is lower, where the owner of the goods does not come forward to make the penalty. It says that if the owner come forward to make the penalty come out, if the owner does not come forward to make the penalty. So let's make one chart for better understanding. What is the point which he like to say? Let me read. But sir, this is the prospective changes. So anyone who had taken the ITC, even being blocked, could be penalized accordingly. So yes, need to be changed. Yes, absolutely correct. So the people are taking the advantage only. People are taking the advantage, but they know or somehow they don't know, but the penalty can be levied in the 17(5)(I). ITC was not available. They cannot take the benefit, but yes, it can be penalized. And so yes, need to be changed. Okay, that's okay. Now, if owner come forward to pay the penalty. If owner does not come forward to pay the penalty. If it is a taxable goods. If it is an exempted goods. Request everyone, please give the answer for 1, 2, 3, and 4. It would be some sort of the revision to all of you, and it is very important, from exam point of view also. एक बार आप लोग आंसर करें, 1 में क्या लिखूं? What I should write in the 1, 2, 3, and 4. What I should write in the 1, 2, 3, and 4. Please quickly give the answer. मैं वेट कर रहा हूं, ध्यान रखना. I am waiting for your reply and then we'll start. Giving you 2 minutes for each part. So one, I have received the answer. It says that 200% of tax. Fine. For second, I have received the answer. 2% of value or 25,000, whichever is lower. Very nice. Right. Right. So third is 50% of value there is something more also, no? Not only 50%. Let's other to give the participation. 50% of the value or 200% of the tax. 50% of the value or 200% of tax, whichever is lower, whichever is higher. Whichever is higher. Okay. And in the last case, yes, instead of 2, it is 5% of value or 25,000. Now it is lower or higher because it is exempted, so it is always kept as a lower. बहुत बढ़िया, perfect. So this you should always remember. Okay, let's go back to the provision. Now, there was a doubt. See, there was one problem in the market at that point of time. Say Mr. A is a supplier of the goods and he is sending the goods to Mr. B. Try to listen. A is the supplier of the goods and B is the customer of that goods. A has moved the goods to B. Let's say A is in Maharashtra and B is in, let's say, Rajasthan. Okay. Now A has moved the goods to B, and in between the goods were checked by the proper officer and some missing. There is some document was missed or not properly made. Then he's saying owner has to come, then I will take the lower amount of the penalty. If owner does not come forward, I will take the higher amount of the penalty. The doubt was whether owner would be Mr. A or Mr. B. It is different practice being followed pan India. At some places they are saying because owner has issued the tax invoice, now he would not be the owner of the goods. The customer recipient has to come only, then I will take the lower amount. Otherwise, I will levy the penalty of 50% of the value. Officer was saying that if B will come because A has issued the tax invoice, so ownership has been transferred. Because A has issued that tax invoice, officer was saying the ownership has been transferred to B. Now, if B will come, I will take the 200% of tax. Otherwise, I will take the 50% of the value. The doubt was, what is the meaning of honor? That has been clarified by the Circular 76. That has been clarified by the Circular 76. They are saying that even consignor or consignee, anyone would be treated as owner. No problem. अगर consignor भी आ जाता है या consignee भी आ जाता है, anyone would be considered or would be treated as owner. So that has been clarified by the Circular 76. Clear? So that was the one big doubt. Now upon furnishing the security equivalent to the amount payable under clause A or the B in such form and such manner as may be prescribed. Okay. So instead of making the payment, we can furnish the security also. Provided that no such goods or conveyance shall be detained or seized without serving an order of the detention or seizure on the person transporting the goods. They are saying that no such goods or conveyance shall be detained or seized without issuing any order of the detention or seizure on the person transporting the goods. So they will issue the order in the prescribed form. 129 subsection 3 says the proper officer detaining or seizing the goods or conveyance shall issue the notice within 7 days. Notice within 7 days of that detention. Notice will specify the penalty payable and thereafter pass an order within a period of 7 days from the date of the service of such notice for payment of the penalty under clause A or clause B of subsection 1. मैं repeat करता हूं. The proper officer detaining or seizing the goods or conveyance shall issue the notice within 7 days. The notice would specify the penalty, and after the notice, they will issue the order within a period of 7 days from the notice. It means 7 days from the detention, they will issue the notice, and from the notice, they will issue within 7 days the order for payment of the penalty under clause A or clause B. Obviously, no penalty shall be determined under the subsection 3 without giving the person a reasonable opportunity of being heard. On payment of amount referred in subsection 1, all proceeding shall be deemed to be concluded. That is okay. Where the person transporting the goods or the owner of goods fail to pay the amount of the penalty within the 15 days from the date of the receipt of the copy of the order passed under subsection 3. See, detention, within 7 days notice, within 7 days order, within 15 days. If order passed under subsection 3 and from that date, within 15 days, failed to pay the penalty, then the goods or conveyance is liable to be sold or disposed of in such manner, in such time as may be prescribed. to recover the penalty payable under subsection 3. Clear? So from the detention, 7 days for notice, 7 days for order, 15 days would be for making the payment. If failed to pay, liable to be sold. Provided that conveyance shall be, and this is a new provision. Earlier, before 1/1/2022, this concept was not at all there. It means conveyance standalone cannot be released. What happened that let's say the one truck owner is carrying the goods of 100%. Out of that, the one consignment does not have the proper document. And because of that, conveyance was on hold. Now, because of the problem of one person, the other 99 are suffering. As a result, transporter were unable to do the business. The transporter were unable to serve the timely delivery to all 99, to rest of the 99 customer. What has been added in the section 129, they have added the provision that conveyance, even truck, can be released on the payment of how much amount, either the penalty or 1 lakh, whichever is lower. So it means maximum he has to pay rupees 1 lakh to release the conveyance. That's it. Now, provided that where the detained or seized goods are perishable or hazardous in nature or likely to be depreciated in value, then said period of 15 days can be reduced by the proper officer. That is okay. Now let's take another break of 10 minutes. Then we will start section 130. हम लोग 10 मिनट का ब्रेक लेते हैं and we will start section 130. We will resume at 7:55. ठीक है, अशोक जी एक बार ब्रेक स्टार्ट कर दीजिए and then we'll resume at 7:55. स्टार्ट हो गया? अशोक जी we have completed section 129. Now we are starting section 130. What is that? Confiscation of the goods or conveyance and levy of the penalty. Where any person supply or receive any goods in contravention of the provision of that or the rules made thereunder, and what is the intention to evade the taxes, in that case does not account for the goods on which he is liable to pay the taxes, supply any goods without applying the registration, contravention any of the provision of the act or the rules made thereunder, but intention is to evade the tax, use any conveyance as a mean of the transport for carriage of goods in contravention of the provision of the act or the rules made thereunder, unless the owner prove that it was so used without the knowledge. So if conveyance used as a transport for carrying the goods in contravention of the provision, then that conveyance can be confiscated, can be detained. But yes, if otherwise, unless the owner prove it was used without the knowledge or convenience of the owner himself is agent, if any, and the person in charge of that conveyance. Correct. In that case, what happened? All such goods and conveyance shall be liable to confiscate, and the person shall be liable to the penalty under section 122. Okay. Wherever confiscation is authorized by this act, the officer adjuring it shall give the owner an option to pay in lieu of confiscation such fine as the officer think fit. Now, what is the concept? It normal in layman language, it is being called as a redemption fine. So in the pre-GST regime, it will be called as a redemption fine. What is the redemption fine? See, the stock pertain to or goods pertain to Mr. A. Now the officer is detaining that goods, confiscating that goods. It means now the ownership is also being vested with the government. What the government will do? They will dispose of these goods. While disposing, they will give the first option to buy. They will give first option to buy these goods to Mr. A. Yes, you can purchase these goods if you like, because now the owner is the government. Whenever confiscation is authorized by this act, they will give the owner an option to pay in lieu of the confiscation. What? Such fine as the said officer deem fit. But there is an upper limit and there is a lower limit also in the proviso. Proviso say that such fine shall not exceed the market value minus whatever the taxes are there. Second, it says that shall not be less than the penalty equal to 200% of the tax, which we have discussed in 129, that at least the penalty should be 200% of the tax payable on that goods. जितना भी फाइन लेंगे तो फाइन would be taken, but it has the upper limit, market value minus tax, lower limit, not below 200% of the tax. Provided that where any conveyance is used for carrying the goods or passenger for hire, the owner of the conveyance shall give an option, again in lieu of the confiscation, fine equal to the tax payable on the goods being transported. So now the fine would be equal to the tax payable. Again, opportunity of being heard would always be given. Where any goods or conveyance are confiscated under this act, the title shall thereupon vest in the government. That is the difference between detention and confiscation. So goods, when it is being detained, the government would become physical owner. Government will have the physical possession, but it is not the owner. When he become the owner, when the provision of section 130, it means the goods were confiscated, then only the government become owner. Till now they are physical possession, they are having the physical possession, but not the actual owner of the goods. But when under the section 130, they will initiate the provision of confiscation, the ownership title will be vested in the government. The proper officer confiscating shall take and hold the possession of the things confiscated. Every officer of the police shall assist him in taking and holding such possession. the officer may, after satisfying himself that the confiscated goods and conveyance are not required in any other proceeding under this act, and after giving reasonable time not exceeding 3 months, maximum time limit 3 months, to pay the fine, otherwise they will do the disposal of that conveyance and deposit the sale proceed with the government. This is section 130. So it is lot of changes in the 129 and 130. So we have discussed section 129 and 130 from the Where Act language. Let's move to the section 131. It says that confiscation or penalty not to interfere with other punishment without prejudice to the provision contained in CRPC, Code of Criminal Procedure. No confiscation made or penalty imposed under the provision of this act shall prevent the infliction of any other punishment to which the person affected, thereby is liable under the provision of this act or under any law. So that will not be interfering with the other punishment. The punishment in certain cases, certain offences, section 132, and it is again most important. What is the section 132? Let's see. Section 132 talk about wherever commit or cause to commit and retain the benefit arising out of any of the offences in the what is the offences? Here you will find the offences are almost covered in the section 120. Whatever we are talking here, that is already covered in 122 section 1. Let's make this one second. Supplying the goods without the purpose, but here there is an intention to remove the payment of tax. Issuing an invoice or bill without supplying the goods in violation of the provisions of this act or the goods that render leading to wrongful avail or utilization of ITC or refund of taxes. Avail ICC using the invoice given in the clause B. See, this is a big invoice. Avail ICC using the invoice or bill referred to in clause B or fraudulently avail ITC without any invoice or bill. Okay. Collect any. So you might ask how one can take the ITC without invoice or bill. Correct. So in the market, people are taking the ITC in the GST region, which is called as GST, even though the transactions are not populating with A to B. Even though they do not have the tax invoice, why they are doing so or how they can do so? Because as of now, we can add the figure manually in the GSTR 3B. We can add the figure manually in the GSTR 3B. Therefore, it is possible that someone is taking the ITC without having any invoice or bill because he may enter manually. Collect the amount as tax but fail to pay to the government beyond a period of 3 months. Evade taxes or fraudulently obtain the refund. You might say, sir, why it has been omitted? Fraudulently avail input tax credit. It is not omitted. Rather, it is shifted to the clause C. Sir, is there any difference to shift in the clause C? Yes. So you should read the clauses of the 132 in two parts. First 4 offences and rest 8 offences. Total 12 offences are there in section 132. But these are more serious in nature and there are less serious in the nature. Bailable, non-bailable, amount, direct arrest are depending on these 4 transactions. We'll talk about the quantification in some time, but always read section 132 in two parts. First 4 offences, rest 8 offences. They are saying fraudulently avail ITC, it has been shifted to above. Evade the taxes or fraudulently obtain the refund, and where such offense is not covered under clause A to D. Falsify or substitute financial record, produce fake account or document, or furnish any false information with an intention to evade the tax. Obstruct or prevent any officer in discharging the duty. Currently, you are reading this provision in 132, but in the time to come, it will be omitted from section 132. It is proposed amendment, but just only for the sake of information, I am telling to you. The obstruct or prevent any officer in discharging the duty under this act, because some of the participant may appear in the exams after November. Obstruct or prevent any officer in discharging the duty. As of now, it is a criminal offense. Section 132 is the criminal offense. Section 132 is a criminal offense, and now they have omitted 3 clauses from the criminal offense. Then next is acquire the possession or in any way concern himself in transporting, removing, depositing, keeping, concealing, supplying, or purchasing in any other manner, deal with any goods which he know or has reason to believe are liable to be confiscated under this act or the rules made thereunder. Receive or is any way concerned with the supply or in any other manner deal with any supply of the service which you know or reason to believe are in contravention of the provision of this act or the rules made thereunder. Temper material evidence. Again, this clause is going to be omitted. By the Finance Act 2023. It is not yet notified. Okay. So tamper with material evidence. As of now, it is a criminal offense. Again, fail to supply any information which is required to supply under this act or the rules made thereunder, or supplied false information. The clause G, J, and K, these 3 offenses are going to be omitted from the criminal category from 132. And why, you know the reason why it has been omitted? The one that can be covered in the section 122, and second, there is a separate category of the offense are covered in the, like if one is tampering the evidence, it is already offense under any other law. So these are the serious offense, correct? It is not a small offense, it is a serious and covered under any. So they like to liberalize the GST from the criminal offense. Attempt to commit or abate the commissioning. Attempt to commit or abate means another person is commissioning that offense, but Mr. A is supporting that person to commit that offense. So he is basically abating. Okay. In clause A to clause K, shall be punishable. In case where the amount of the tax evaded or ITC wrongly availed or utilized. Now try to understand the amount, quantification. In case the amount of tax evaded or amount of ITC wrongly availed or utilized or refund wrongly taken exceed 5 crore. Then what is the imprisonment? The imprisonment would be 5 years and with the fine. May extend to 5 years and with fine. Who will decide the fine? Magistrate will decide the fine. In case the amount of tax evaded or the amount of the ITC wrongly availed or utilized or the amount of the refund wrongly taken exceed 2 crore but not exceed 5 crore. It means up to 5 crore. Then with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 3 years plus fine. How much fine? Again, magistrate would decide. How much would be the exact term? Magistrate would decide. In case the other offenses where the amount of the tax evaded or the amount of the ITC wrongly availed or utilized, amount of the refund wrongly taken exceed 1 crore but does not exceed 2 crore with imprisonment which may extend to 1 year and fine. Again, this is going to be liberalized in future. This would be only for the fake invoicing. The 1 crore ka limit would only be the fake invoicing. But again, it is not important for you for next May exams. So I can say the slab are if the amount exceed 1 crore, which amount? Tax evaded, amount of the ITC wrongly availed, utilized or refund taken, exceed 5 crore, then imprisonment up to 5 year and fine. Okay. If it is exceed 2 crore but up to 5 crore, amount of the fine can be, the imprisonment can be up to 3 years and fine. Exceed 1 crore but up to 2 crore, yes, imprisonment which may extend to 1 year and fine. Now they are talking about 3 clauses: clause F, clause G and clause J. Then he shall be punishable with an imprisonment which may extend to 6 months and fine or both. So in all above clauses, if you see that the word and is being written, but in the last clause 4, they are saying 6 months or fine or both. Again, it is the discretionary. But in the above 3 clauses, the imprisonment would be there plus fine would also be there. But in the last, it can be imprisonment or fine or both. Where any person convicted an offense under this section, now repeat offender. Now it is a repeat offender. The first time we have discussed, it is divided in the slab wise, depending upon the quantum of the offense committed. If the person is again convicting the same offense, then this time we will not see the amount. We will always give the imprisonment of 5 years and fine, upper slab, highest slab. Any person convicted an offense under this section is again convicted of an offense under this section. He shall be punishable for the second and for every subsequent offense with imprisonment which may extend to 5 years and fine. Okay. The imprisonment referred to in clause 1, clause 2 and clause 3. In the absence of special and adequate reason, the court should not give less than 6 months. At least 6 months ka imprisonment has to be there. So they are talking about the imprisonment which may extend to 5 years, which may extend to 3 years, which may be extend to 1 year. But they are saying because it is written up to, so it can be lower than that. But clause 3, subsection 3 is saying that at least 6 months ka imprisonment should be there. If not, then they have to record the reason in writing. Why they are not giving the 6 month ka imprisonment in the clause 1, 2 and 3. Now, which offense is cognizable, which offense is not cognizable? Now read the provision, then you have to give my answer. I will not explain right now. I will ask the question, you have to give the right answer. Let me read the provision. Notwithstanding anything contained in the CRPC, all offense under this act, except for the offense referred to in subsection 5, shall be non-cognizable and bailable. So let's read what is the subsection 5. The offense referred to in clause A, clause B, clause C, clause D, plus punishment under clause 1 shall be cognizable and non-bailable. Fine. So I hope both the provision are in front of you. Now you tell me. So my question is on these provision only. You tell me, for non-bailable offense, what should be the amount? See, there is an offense committed, but when the offense would be considered as cognizable and non-bailable, I am talking about only the quantum. कितना quantum होगा तब ये non-bailable and cognizable माना जाएगा? This is my question to all of you. Waiting for your answer. I'll ask one interesting question. बट पहले ये तो आंसर करो। The answer is above 5 crore. Greater than 5 crore or more. Greater than 5 crore, I can say. Above 5 crore, right? So why? Because the offense is specified in subsection 1, clause A, B, D, and punishable under clause 1. What is the offense under clause 1? In case where the amount of tax evaded, ITC wrong level utilized has exceed 5 crore rupees. So please do not write 5 crore and above. It will always be more than 5 crore. Okay. It will always be exceed 5 crore. Okay. Now my next question. If the offense are clause A, clause B, clause C, clause D, ITC fraudulently taken, fake invoicing, supplying the goods without invoice, but amount is 2 crore, whether it is cognizable and non-bailable or non-cognizable and bailable. Very simple question I've asked. Please give the answer. The amount evaded is more than 2 crore, then whether it is a cognizable and a non-bailable or whether it is a non-cognizable and bailable. If the amount is greater than 2 crore but up to 5 crore, is it a cognizable and non-billable or non-cognizable and billable? This was my question. If the amount is greater than 2 crore but up to 5 crore, the offense would be cognizable and non-billable or non-cognizable and billable. The answer is non-cognizable and billable because this offense is not covered under clause 1. It is covered under the clause 2. Clause 2, clause 3, etc. Now, my question to all of you. The person first time he has committed the offense under clause A, clause B, clause C, clause D, and the amount was more than 5 crore. That offense was cognizable and non-bailable. Let's say he is committing second time, same offense, same amount greater than 5 crore. This time, is it a cognizable, non-bailable or non-cognizable and bailable? इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है, ध्यान से आंसर दीजिएगा. इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन है, ध्यान से आंसर दीजिएगा. It is an important question. Please give the answer carefully. Very important question. Waiting for your reply. Both, either it would be non-cognizable and bailable or either it would be non-cognizable or cognizable, whereas both cannot be there. भाई एक ऑफेंस है तो कॉग्निजेबल हो गया, नॉन कॉग्निजेबल होगा. So my only point, there is a problem here. There is a slight problem. What is the problem? That prima facie we can say when this Mr. A is committing the first time mistake, that offense was cognizable and non-bailable. What is the meaning of cognizable and non-bailable? Cognizable means serious nature. Offense are serious in the nature. But non-cognizable means less serious in the nature. Non-cognizable means less serious in the nature. Okay. And bailable, non-bailable means, what is the meaning of non-bailable? Will that person be never granted the bail? No, that is not the meaning. Try to understand the difference between bailable and non-bailable. The offense, whether bailable or non-bailable, in both the case, the bail would be granted. The only difference, the bailable offense, in this offense, the bail would be granted by the arresting officer himself. If the offense are non-bailable, in that case, bail would be granted by the magistrate, not by the arresting officer. Clear? So the problem is, in this case, when the first time Mr. A is committing the mistake, amount is more than 5 crore. It is a cognizable and non-bailable. You tell me, if it is committing second time mistake, whether he will be covered in the clause 1, clause 2, clause 3, or he will be punishable under subsection 2. एक बार ध्यान से आंसर दीजिएगा कि अगर किसी पर्सन ने वापस रिपीट ऑफेंस किया है, will he covered under subsection 1 or will he covered under subsection 2? अगर किसी पर्सन ने अगेन ऑफेंस कन्विक्ट किया है, will he covered under subsection 1 or will he covered under subsection 2? The answer is subsection 2 because again का offense is being penalty और offense का जितना भी punishment है quantum है, it is being given in subsection 2. Now read the language. Offense under subsection 1 shall be cognizable and non-bailable. And every offense other than subsection 5 offense except which is being referred in subsection 5. What is being referred in subsection 5? The offense which are punishable under the offense which is being nature in the subsection 1 and punishable under clause 1. Please note, repeat offender are not coming in subsection 1. Repeat offender are coming in subsection 2. Repeat offender are coming in subsection 2. Therefore, I can say because subsection 5 is only covering 1, therefore, if the repeat offender are there, it will be covered in the 4 and that offense become non-cognizable and bailable, which is not the correct intention. That there is a problem. Okay. Now let's move. A person shall not be prosecuted for any offense under this section except with the prior sanction of the commissioner. Okay. The term tax shall include amount of the tax evaded or amount of the ITC wrongly availed or utilized or refund wrongly taken under the provision of the CGST Act, SGST Act, IGST Act or UTGST Act and compensations as levied. So tax means everything. Section 133 talking about liability of officer and certain other person. Where any person engaged in connection with the collection of statistics under section 151. Okay. Or compliance or computerization thereof. Or if any officer of the central tax having the access to the information specified in 150 subsection 1. Or if any person engaged in connection with the provision of service on the common portal or the agent of the common portal, that's it. The person who is having the secret information, correct? Officer. 133 is covering liability of officer and certain other person. They are saying where any person engaged in connection with the collection of information under section 151 from electricity board, ROC, MCA, registrar, or compilation or computerization thereof. If any officer of central tax having the access of the information is specified in 150 subsection 1, or if any person engaged in connection with the provision of service on the common portal, GST portal, or the agent of the common portal will fully disclose any information or the content of any return furnished under this act. Like all these agent, all these सुविधा प्रोवाइडर, ठीक है, they have the information, every information would be there with them if they willfully disclose any information or return furnished under this act or the rules made thereunder. Otherwise, then in execution of the duties, in that case, for the purpose of the prosecution of an offense under this act or under any other act for the time, he shall be punishable with imprisonment, which may extend to 6 months, or fine, which may extend to 25,000 or both. Any person who is a government servant shall not be prosecuted prior sanction of the government. That is correct. Who is not a government servant shall not be prosecuted without the prior permission of the commissioner. Section 134, cognizance of offense. No court shall take cognizance of any offense punishable under this act except prior sanction of the commissioner, and no court inferior to that of magistrate of the first court shall try any such offense. So they are saying the cognizance means no court shall take cognizance of any offense under this act except with the prior permission of the commissioner. Section 135, presumption of culpable mental state. It is a presumption in any prosecution for an offense under this act which require a culpable mental state on the part of the accused. The court shall presume the existence of such mental state, but it shall be a defense for the accused to prove that he had no such mental state with respect to the act charged as an offense in that prosecution. So any offense is being convicted. So Mr. is convicted by an offense. So it will be presumed that he is a guilty mind. But if he does not so, then he has to prove. The court will presume the existence of the mental state. Otherwise, he has to defend. If he like to defend, then he has to prove that yes, there was no mental state with respect to the act charged or an offense in that prosecution. Culpable mental state includes intention, motive, knowledge of the fact and belief or reason to believe a fact. Okay. A fact is said to be proved only when court believe it to exist beyond a reasonable doubt and not merely when its existence is established by preponderation of the probability. No, the probability would not work. Yes, a fact is said to be proved only when the court believe it exists beyond reasonable doubt. तो कोई doubt नहीं होना चाहिए. Section 136, relevance of the statement under certain circumstances. Statement made and signed by a person on appearance in response of any summons under Section 70 during the course of any inquiry or proceeding shall be relevant for the purpose of proving in any prosecution for an offense under this act the truth of the fact which it contains, where the person who had made the statement is dead or cannot be found or incapable of giving the evidence or is kept out of the way by the adverse party, or where presence cannot be obtained without an amount of delay or expense which under the circumstances of the case the court consider unreasonable. When the person who has made the statement is examined as witness in the case before the court, or court is of the opinion having regard to the circumstances, the statement should be admitted in evidence in the interest of justice. So in that case, yes, the relevance of the statement under certain circumstances. Now, sometimes the question comes that if there is an offense by the company, whether accountant would also be liable to that offense, whether he will also be prosecuted or imposed by fine. Senior manager is there, CFO is there, whether that would also be the guilty mind. The answer is being given in Section 137. Second point, prima facie. When we read the Section 137, it appears that it applies only for the companies, but that is not the case. Let's start because this explanation says that company means body corporate and include the firms or other association of individual as well. ठीक है. डायरेक्टर इन रिलेशन टू फर्म मीन्स ए पार्टनर इन द फर्म. अगर मैं कंपनी की बात करता हूं तो इट विल बी द डायरेक्टर, बट इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द फर्म देन इट मीन्स द पार्टनर. ठीक है. So let's move to the section 137, where an offense committed by a person under this act. Kaushik, give me 2 minutes. Let me complete this, then I will back to your question. Where an offense committed by a person under this act is a company, then every person at the time of the offense was committed, was in charge of and responsible to the company for the conduct of the business of the company, as well as the company shall be deemed to be guilty of the offense and shall be liable to be proceeded against any punished according and punishment and against and punished accordingly. What is the meaning? The meaning is that section 137 says that if any offense committed by the company, then every person who is liable for the entire business conduct of the business of the company, it means managing director and chairman. Sir, Mr. A was the CFO or head of operation or head IT or head sales and marketing. They are not responsible for the business, entire business of the organization. They are responsible only for a particular function like finance, like IT, like sales and marketing, etc. Then notwithstanding anything contained in subsection 1. So here they are saying it will be deemed to be guilty. It means मान लिया जाएगा कि वो guilty है. Go to the subsection 3. It says that subsection 4. But if that person, like managing director or chairman, if they prove that the offense was committed without his knowledge, or he has exercised all the due diligence to prevent the commissioning of that offense, then yes, he can be saved. First point, that managing director or commissioner who is responsible for the business, managing director and chairman who is responsible, managing director and chairman who is responsible for the entire business, then they will be deemed to be guilty for the offense. But if they prove that they have taken the due care, they are not having any such knowledge, in that case, yes, they will not be deemed to be guilty. Now, subsection 2 says, if it is proved, now they are saying if the offense has been committed by the company and it is proved that offense has been committed with the consent or it is attributable to the negligence of director, manager, secretary, or any officer of the company. It means here everyone would include, every employees of the company would be included. If the offense was committed with the consent or attributable to the negligence, then yes, such director shall also be deemed to be guilty of the offense and liable to be proceeded against and punished accordingly. Now, subsection 3 says that where an offense under this act has been committed by a taxable person being a partnership firm or a limited liability partnership, where an offense under this act has been committed by a taxable person like partnership firm or LLP or HUF or trust, the partner or karta or managing director shall be deemed to be guilty of that offense and shall be liable to be proceeded against and punished accordingly, and the provision will mutatis mutandis will apply to such person. Subsection 2 will also apply. Subsection 4 we have already discussed. Explanation we have already discussed. Is there any question? I think yes. Kaushik has asked. Let's read 136. Relevance of the statement made by the person. So a statement made and signed under summons during the course of inquiry proceeding shall be relevant for the purpose of proving and any prosecution of an offense under this act and truth of the fact which it contains. Okay. When the person who has made the statement is dead, cannot be found or incapable and kept out of the way, or whose presence cannot be obtained, in that case, without an amount of the delay or expense which are under the circumstances of the case court consider unreasonable. Then clause B says, when the person who has made the statement is examined as witness in the case before the court, then the statement given by those person will be considered true and will be used or will be relevant for the purpose of proving any prosecution for an offense. Is it okay, Kaushiki? Shivam, whether the authorized signatory of the return not being senior management but a managerial person would still deemed to be guilty. In subsection 2, if it is proved, then if it is proved that his negligence, if it is proved that yes, he was involved, then only it will be deemed to be guilty, otherwise not. कौशिकी, अगर कोई पर्सन जिसने स्टेटमेंट दिया और वो एक्सपायर हो गया, ठीक है, या कोई पर्सन जिसने कोर्ट के सामने अपना स्टेटमेंट दिया है, तो वो स्टेटमेंट ट्रू माना जाएगा और उसको यूज किया जाएगा फॉर द प्रोसिक्यूशन और फॉर टेकिंग एनी पेनल्टी, imposing any penalty. स्टेटमेंट का रिलेवेंस क्या है, ठीक है। अब हम बात करते हैं सेक्शन 138 की, कंपाउंडिंग ऑफ ऑफेंस। व्हाट इज द कंपाउंडिंग? कंपाउंडिंग मींस सेटलमेंट। कंपाउंडिंग मींस सेटलमेंट। सेटलमेंट ऑफ व्हाट? सेटलमेंट फ्रॉम imprisonment. What is the meaning of compounding? Compounding means he has to pay the tax, he has to pay the interest, he has to pay the penalty plus compounding fees. What is the benefit? The benefit would be that such person would not be prosecuted. The only benefit that he would not be prosecuted. It means he has to pay the additional fees. Yes, that is the compounding fees. In this section 138, there was also proposed amendment. What is that? We'll discuss. This section 138 says any offense under this act may either before or after the institution of the prosecution be compounded. It means either before or after the institution. It means proceeding start ho chuki hai, prosecution start ho chuka hai, then also it can be compounded. On payment, it means compounding cannot be made without payment by the person accused of the offense to the government, such compounding amount as may be prescribed. The proviso says that compounding would not be possible in the below cases when a person who has already been compounded once in respect of any offense. See, difference between clause A and the clause B. Clause A means with any amount already compounded and does not link with the amount. Clause B is also talking about already compounding, but yes, they are talking about greater than 1 crore. Let's read now. A person who has been allowed to compound once in respect of any of the offense specified in clause A to F, you have to refer 132(1), and the offense specified in the clause L, which are relatable to the offense specified in clause A to F. Okay, of the said subsections. A person who has been allowed to compound once in respect of offense other than clause A. It means इनके अलावा बाकी जो क्लॉज हैं उसमें अगर उसने पहले कंपाउंडिंग लिया है, ठीक है, फॉर द वैल्यू एक्सीडिंग 1 करोड़, तब वापस कंपाउंडिंग नहीं होगा. लेट मी रिपीट वंस अगेन. द बिलो पर्सन आर नॉट एलिजिबल फॉर कंपाउंडिंग if the person has compounded once. For which offense? Offense given in the clause A to F and clause L. Then they are not allowed to do the second time compounding. Second, for offense other than this, other than clause A to F and other than clause L, was already done the compounding in respect of the offense, these offense, ठीक है, for value exceeding 1 crore, then they will not be allowed to second compounding. Suppose last time they've done the compounding, but the amount is only 50 lakhs. They are allowed to do the compounding once again. What are the offenses? You can go and check the clause A to F. Okay. The third, a person who has been accused of committing an offense under this act, which is also an offense under any other law for the time being in force. Well, which is offense in the GST, and that offense is covered under any other law, then he will not be allowed to do the compounding. A person who has been convicted for an offense under this act by court, no compounding. A person who has been accused of committing the offense is specified in the clause G, clause A, clause K. Now, the point is the proposed amendment, because this clause is going to be omit from the 132(1). So therefore, the relevance of this clause E would not be there in future. Any other class of the person as may be prescribed. Fine. Okay. It will not affect the proceeding of any other law. Okay. Now, what is the compounding shall be allowed only after making the payment of tax, then interest, then penalty. It means the three would be there plus compounding fees. The amount, now it is very important to understand there is one problem in the compounding fees also. The amount for compounding of offense under this section shall be such as may be prescribed, subject to the minimum amount not being less than 10,000 or 50% of the tax involved. %50 of tax involved, whichever is higher. Okay. And maximum amount not being less than 30,000 rupees or 150% of the tax, whichever is higher. Try to understand. Maximum amount not being less than 30,000. It means it can 34,000. It can 50,000. They are saying maximum amount should not be less than. See, try to understand the language gap in these two words. Try to understand the language gap in these two words. What is the language gap? You are saying maximum amount not less than. See, upper limit not less than 30. It means it can be 40, it can be 50, it can be 100, it can be 1 lakh rupees, isn't it? See, the maximum amount should directly be written in the law. It should not be written like not less than 150%. Can it be 250%? Answer is yes. It can be 250%. So that is the problem. And absolutely correct, Shivam, that Finance Act 23 has proposed that instead of 50 to 150, the compounding fees would be 25% to 100%. The percentage has been reduced, but again, that is not effective for your coming exam. Once Finance Act 23 would be notified, then only it is useful. The commission on payment of the compounding amount as may be determined by the commissioner, no further proceeding shall be initiated under this act against the accused person in respect of the same offense or any criminal proceeding, if any, initiated in respect of the said offense shall stand abated. So fine. So we have completed this chapter, and any question, please ask me. Let me see. I talked about that. I will show you one notification. मैं आपको एक बार देख लेता हूँ. Allow me only 2 minutes. Meanwhile, you can ask the question. I have to show one notification to all of you. maximum not less than 30,000. So now this language is amended maximum 30,000. Not as in मतलब at least 30,000 तो लगा नहीं है, or currently 150% of the tax, whichever is high. Any doubt? एक मिनट और लूंगा. I will take only for 1 minute, only 1 more minute, so that I can show you the notification which is being used to waive the late fees. Let's say I'm talking about the notification number 7 by 2022, only for your benefit of understanding or only for understanding purpose. See, whenever they are relaxing the late fees under section 47, they will always start the notification in exercise of the power of section 128 of the CGST. And we have just now discussed that the section 128 giving the power to reduce the late fees or penalty. Okay. This type of the power will be used in the notification to reduce the late fees. Yeah, please. ठीक है sir. Thank you sir. Offense was non-cognizable and bailable. So for sure, I will repeat once again. So we were talking about that which offense are cognizable and non-bailable or non-cognizable and bailable. So section 132 says that this offense given in the subsection 5 are cognizable and non-bailable. Rest all are non-cognizable and bailable. Okay. So which are cognizable? The cognizable are only covered in subsection 1 and first 4 offense. Okay. So I was talking about that if the offense are covered in subsection 2, repeat offender, correct? Now, if he is again committing that offense, then he will be liable for any amount, imprisonment, etc. Where it is being given, it was given in 132.2. It was given in 132.2, where any person convicted an offense under this section is again convicted, then he shall be punishable. So I can say the repeat offender are covered in 132.2. But if you see the subsection 5, it is only covered 132 subsection 1. It means even if the amount is more than 5 crore in case of the repeat offender, then it will be covered by 4 and it will always be non-cognizable. Is it okay? Please confirm so I can proceed to the last part. Is it okay or not okay? So I can repeat once again. Clause C. Clause 1 is not talking about the 1 second. See, Punishment is being given under clause 1. Nature is not being given under clause 1. Punishment means if amount is more than 5 crore, then it is covered in the clause 1. So there are two parts. Again, here are two parts. 132.1 is talking about nature of the offense. Clause I for ice cream. No, that is okay. That is okay. So clause I, that is not clause I, that is clause 1. 1, 2, and 3. They are talking about 1, 2, and 3, not I for ice cream. They are saying offense are clause A, clause B, clause C, clause D, and punishment are covered in the sub clause or main clause 1. It means more than 5 crore. So in the clause 1, it is more than 5 crore. Clause 2 is more than 2 crore. So they are talking about which are cognizable if it is more than 5 crore, and clause A, B, C, D. It is covered in the clause A, B, C, D. अभी भी अगर डाउट क्लियर नहीं हुआ तो काइंडली आस्क काउंटर क्वेश्चन, नो प्रॉब्लम. So in my view, fine. So let me move to the last quick round of the question answer. Ashok ji, आप मैं stop कर रहा हूँ sharing. You can make it middle. Let me ask few questions in last 10 minutes. What is the difference between taxable person and registered person? First question, what is the difference between taxable person and registered person? What is the difference between taxable person and registered person? The answer is taxable person means registered or liable to be registered. Absolutely correct. Person means anyone which is being defined, and registered person is the person who is registered, whether mandatory or voluntarily. Thank you. Can you please tell me the amount of penalty under section 122 subsection 1? Can you please tell me the amount of penalty under 122 subsection 1? The answer is, can you please tell me the amount of the penalty in the 122 subsection 1? The answer is 10,000 or 100% of the tax, whichever is higher. In case of mastermind, in case of the mastermind of the offense, in case of the mastermind of the offense, what is the penalty amount? In case of the mastermind of the offense, what is the penalty amount? The person who is mastermind of any offense, what could be the penalty amount? Answer is 100% of tax. My question is, in section 122 subsection 1, how much offense are there? कितना क्वांटम है? नंबर ऑफ ऑफेंसेस आर देयर इन 122.1. कितने ऑफेंसेस है 122.1 में? कितने ऑफेंस है 122.1 में? जस्ट काउंट 1 2 3 4 5 समथिंग लाइक दैट. Correct answer, yes. Yes, absolutely correct. 21 is the offenses. Next question. In section 122 subsection 2, it is matching, this provision is matching with some other provision in the law. The penalty for 122 subsection 2 is matching with some other provision. What is that? Which section it is matching? The answer is yes. Viraj, total 21 offenses are there. No problem. The answer of this question is matching with the 73-74. Can you please tell me in 122 subsection 2, if it is a non-fraud case, what is the quantum of the penalty? In case of the section 122 subsection 2, if it is a non-fraud case, then what is the quantum of the penalty? What is the quantum of the penalty? The answer is 10,000 or 10% of the tax, whichever is higher. 10,000 or 10% of the tax, whichever is higher. Next question. Section 123, which talks about power, a penalty for failure to furnish information return. Please tell me the penalty amount. Please tell me the penalty amount. Please tell me the penalty amount for failure to furnish the return, information return. Every participant are requested to give the reply. Every participant are requested to give the reply. So in this way, the entire chapter would be revised. Yes. 100 rupees per day, subject to the maximum of 5,000. So we have discussed one concept that the penalty, it is under CGST, SCST, something like that, that it is applicable for everywhere. So we have discussed one concept that as we are reading the provision of CGST Act. So what was that concept? Suppose I'm talking about 100 rupees per day subject to the maximum of 5,000. Actually, Mr. A, who is committing that offense, he has to pay total amount of rupees 100 per day and subject to the maximum of total amount of 5,000. Is it? We have discussed something. What was that concept? Correct. Correct. So it will be doubled. It will be double. See, if I am talking about 100 rupees per day, it means we are talking about in the section 123 that 100 rupees per day. It means actually Mr. A, who has committed that offense, he has to pay 200 rupees per day. Subject to 5,000, it means 5 CGST and 5 SGST, total 10,000. Right. What is the quantum of general penalty? What is the quantum of general penalty? What is the quantum of general penalty? Answer is up to 25,000. Okay. So next question is section 126, general discipline. So in that general discipline related to the penalty, when 126 would not be applied, we know that if there is a minor breach or there is a procedural non-compliance, no penalty would be levied. But when section 126 cannot come into the picture or cannot be used, 126 कब नहीं लगाया जा सकता? Viraj, general penalty would be 25,000 CGST. If it is fixed sum or fixed percentage. When the penalty amount is fixed sum or fixed percentage, then 126 cannot be levied. Can you please tell me in the general penalty, can we say that for imposing the general penalty, general discipline given in section 126 to be applied? Can we say that for imposing the general penalty of section 125, the discipline given in the 126 to be applied by the officer? Yes or no? The answer would be yes, because section 125 talking about up to 25,000. Next question, in case of the detention, seizure or release of the goods, if the owner come forward and the goods are taxable, how much is the penalty? If the owner come forward and goods are taxable, how much is the penalty? If the owner come forward and the goods are taxable, how much is the penalty? If the owner come forward and ready to pay the penalty, how much is the penalty? The answer is 200% of tax. If the owner does not come forward and supply the goods are exempted, if the owner does not come forward and goods are exempted, how much is the penalty? How much is the penalty? 200% of tax. It means automatically, see, there would be CGST, there would be SGST. So 200% of CGST, 200% of SGST. So, but please do not use the word 400 because ultimately it will be 200. The 200% of the tax, CGST, same amount for SGST. But if I make the total, again, it will be 200% for the total taxable value. Okay. So what could be the 5% or 25,000, whichever is lower? Absolutely correct. Sir, answer so on page number 21.8, 21.8, 21.9. Is it? क्वेश्चन आपके आंसर, विराज आपकी रिप्लाई काफी लेट आ रही है जबकि कौशिकी की रिप्लाई काफी जल्दी आ रही है, ऐसा क्यों, गैप क्यों हो रहा है? मतलब आप मुझे मतलब अराउंड 2-3 मिनट्स बैक का आंसर दे रहे हैं, ऐसा रिप्लाई में गैप आ रहा है काफी. नो प्रॉब्लम. सेक्शन 130 we talked about when they are confiscating the goods, then they will give the option to the owner of that goods, but for pay the redemption fine, correct? But redemption fine would have some maximum value, would have some lower value. Can you please tell me the maximum amount of the fine, and can you please also tell me the lower amount of that fine? Should not be lower than that much. Yes. Okay. Okay. I thought because of that technical reason might be. That's nice. So every listener of the participant student, you all are requested to connect with me on my LinkedIn profile, CA Arun Chajed. This is only for the purpose to stay connected with my student, and I would be having the knowledge whenever you are keeping going growth in the career or when you clear the exam. So I would be keep informed ultimately. So that is the reason I'm requesting everyone to keep connect with me in LinkedIn profile. So क्या लोअर अमाउंट मिनिमम कितना होगा और मैक्सिमम कितना जा सकता है, फाइन की बात कर रहा हूं. This is the last question. This is the last question for the day. This is the last question for the day. Please tell me the minimum amount and the maximum amount of the fine under section 130, which I'm talking about. And yesterday someone asking na, that how to ask the doubt. So I think you can mail to the board of study. Any doubt if you have, you can mail to the board of study. So they will discuss with the respective faculty, probably, I don't know the exact process, and they will give you the reply. So that is the best way to ask any doubt. You can also mail to the board of study, and board of study, after compiling your reply, they will give the answer. So answer to my question, that in section 130, when the fine would be imposed, that it should not be exceed the market value minus tax, and it should not be less than the penalty which is leviable under section 129, that is 200% of tax. So by this I have completed the today class. And will be in touch in the next class for the next chapter. Thank you very much. Good night to all of you. And Ashokji, you can wind up the today webinar.